Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process and for authors to learn valuable tips on producing and marketing your audiobooks. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Hello, and thank you for joining me today. We're going to dive a little deep into some of the issues around audiobook distribution, specifically concerns around what's happening with Findaway Voices and Spotify. For any of my listeners that are not familiar with Findaway Voices, I'll give you just a very brief introduction and bit of recent history that is impactful in terms of audiobooks and their royalties and distribution. So, Findaway Voices has been a company that provides many different services. That one of their main services, and the one that we're concerned about, is related to audiobook distribution. They have been a path, they still are, a path to get your audiobook out into a wide range of retail stores or retail online channels and libraries. Findaway Voices service has also been used or is used by Authors Republic, which is the digital distributor that we typically recommend and very frequently, almost all the time, work with, in addition to Amplify Audiobooks, which is our primary channel for the most success for authors with their audiobook distribution and marketing. So, Findaway Voices has been around for many, many years, and they've had a journey of their own. One of the most recent developments, and this was quite big in the audiobook industry, was the fact that Spotify bought Findaway Voices. Spotify has been on their own journey. They had wanted to establish 3 pillars, and the first was music, where they began. They then purchased a company that provided them with podcasting. And then the third pillar is audiobooks. This gives them a very big footprint in the listening world, and it was a very big deal for them. And they have wanted everyone to be very excited about that development. I met with them briefly at APAC, which is the Audio Publishers Association conference, at the last one in 2023, and it raised a lot of concerns for me. But at that time, they had really just taken over, and they were pretty much leaving everything the way it was. There were some developments by the time APAC happened that were significant, and one of those was that Findaway Voices used to have a program called Authors Direct. Authors Direct, when I was looking for a solution for our clients at Pro Audio Voices, when I was looking for a solution for them to be able to earn more royalties from their audiobook sales, that looked like it might be an option. And I approached them to try and figure out, is that something that we could participate in? And what I learned was a couple things. One, no, they were not open to that. And two, the rate that they were claiming they were paying was not a transparent, fully explained rate. And what I mean by that is, and this is something that has always bothered me, it still bothers me, and it happens everywhere in every industry. It's not just audiobooks, it's not just publishing, but there is a real lack of transparency around what people say on their websites to try to get you to buy the thing that they're trying to sell. What Findaway Voices was claiming on their website when you went to find out about Authors Direct was it said you'll earn 70% of the royalty. Well, they said you'll earn 70%. That's basically what they said. Then when you go to the fine print, the FAQs on a whole separate page, if you start reading those, then you would find out that no, actually it's not 70%. It's actually 80% of 70%, which is 56%. So it's deceptive. It's hard enough out there for us indie authors who are trying to navigate the very complex world of indie publishing with all the sharks swimming around in the pool to find our way through safely. And this is the main reason, and it bothers me so much when there are these claims made that where basically they're relying on an assumption by the viewer, the listener, the potential customer of theirs. They're relying on them to make an assumption that is not accurate. And that seems really wrong to me. So, coming back to the history of Findaway Voices and Spotify. After Spotify purchased Findaway Voices, they eliminated the Authors Direct sales program. What that had been essentially was a way for authors who were going to try to do more of a direct sale approach would have a delivery system for their audiobook. It was basically another channel that was offering slightly higher royalties. But that went away. And that threw a lot of authors who were participating in that program into a kind of a freak out about, oh my God, now what do I do? Because the royalties that you generate for audiobooks through the standard channels, the Audible channel, through audiobooks.com even, Libro FM, all of these, and there are many, many channels, but all of them are taking a big cut out of the revenue from each audiobook sale, which leaves not very much for the author. Now, some of the platforms like Libro FM, for example, audiobooks.com, some of them do pay higher than some of the others. So they're, better, way better than Audible is. But still, the author is not really earning very much on the sale of each audiobook. So that can be frustrating, but it can also make it really hard to recoup your audiobook production investment. Essentially, what happened was when Spotify purchased Findaway Voices, they eliminated that slightly better option for distribution. Findaway Voices is still a service that you can utilize, now owned by Spotify, but you can utilize it to get your audiobook out into other platforms. But there are risks involved in that, and that's part of what we're going to talk about here. The first risk in distributing your audiobook through Findaway Voices / Spotify is around intellectual property rights. There is a great concern that the way that the agreement reads makes it at least sound like they are basically saying that they can copy, reconfigure, reproduce your content. They say in the agreement that it is in order for them to deliver the services that they're providing. But without the language being just a little more clear, it's a scary thought to basically say to a big company like Spotify, oh, okay, I am going to distribute through your service, but in exchange, I'm giving you basically the license to use my content in ways that could actually infringe on my rights as an author, as the rights holder. Especially these days, in consideration of how much AI is being utilized to take content and reconfigure it, and, our rights are just kind of flying out the window, basically. And even though there are some statements in the agreement with Findaway Voices / Spotify that suggest that they won't do that, there's still, I think, good reason for concern about what exactly they're saying they're allowed to do when you upload your content to their platform. So that is the first risk. And what we're going to do, we're just going to take a short pause here for a moment, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of the other challenges and concerns around your content being on Spotify and Spotify's policies regarding the content that is on their platform and the royalties that may or may not get paid out as a result. We'll be right back. Would you like to earn more from your audiobook sales? If you're an author with an audiobook, you may have noticed that royalties from Audible especially, and other platforms as well, are frankly kinda pathetically low, disappointingly low, and unfairly low considering what it cost you in effort and resources to create it. How is it the retailers are the ones making all the money off your work and investment? As someone who started in the audiobook industry in 1981, I've found it frustrating that authors keep getting shortchanged. The good news is that Pro Audio Voices just launched Amplify Audiobooks, a direct sale audiobook platform for authors that puts you back in the driver's seat. Earn 65% of the gross sales price that you set. Compare that to the percentage of the percentage that retailers give. Run promotions on schedule whenever you want. Create coupon codes. Build community with your customers, since you'll know who they are and how to contact them. Work with a caring, responsive, supportive team to help you succeed all along the way. Get help with marketing. Get paid weekly. We're helping audiobook authors who are frustrated by painfully low royalties and the barriers that prevent them from managing their own products and customers. Amplify Audiobooks is a direct sale platform that enables authors to earn much higher royalties and have way more control. We're disrupting the audiobook industry by putting authors first. Get started today at proaudiovoices.app or go to proaudiovoices.com and click on the Distribution Amplify link. Join the movement. Okay, so I'm going to read some short excerpts from Forbes' website, Forbes.com. There is an article, Spotify's audiobook rollout sparks fears of unfair payment for authors, but some welcome competition to Audible. So I'm going to read a few clips from this article, but the welcome competition to Audible, well, sure, but if they're going to just be another low-paying or no-paying version of Audible, does that really help? Or is it just changing who's, robbing the pockets of the authors? That's what I'd like to know. Okay, so here's what it says in this article. Some authors and literary agents fear they won't see much in royalties thanks to Spotify's offer of 15 hours of audiobooks per month to paid subscribers, particularly since publishers reportedly made deals with Spotify without consulting authors. But some hope the streaming platform will provide healthy competition to Amazon's Audible, which dominates the audiobook market. That's the end of that quote. Okay, so if you, as an author, are represented by a publisher, then you should be, have some red flags go up and be aware of what's happening with your audiobook content. So some of the largest publishing companies that have struck deals include Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, and Simon & Schuster, and apparently also many smaller publishers, according to the New York Times. But now let's think about the fact of what is Spotify actually offering? 15 hours of audiobooks per month. That is easily a full free audiobook every month. So great for customers, right? But maybe not so great for authors. The agents and representatives for the authors that are mentioned in this article are very concerned that authors have not been consulted on the license or payment terms, and that agents were not consulted about giving Spotify permission to use their titles. So that is a real, genuine concern because what's going to happen to the royalties? And one of the things that I gleaned from this article is that those terms are not clear. And that, I think, is a big problem. It is kind of the same problem that we have with Audible, with ACX. They tell you that it's going to be a percentage of the net if you actually read the terms. If you don't read the terms, you'll think that it's going to be a percentage of the gross. That's the assumption that they hope you're going to make so that you're lured in to go exclusive with them or at least to distribute through them. So the fact that it's not clear, once you get into the Audible terms, like payment terms, there's some other factor in there somewhere that is not transparent. And they have all these different ways of paying, and they don't give you a clear formula. Honestly, I do not know how legally they get away with that, to have such an ambiguous contract agreement that is what they offer to authors. So who knows? There may be a class action suit in the future that is brewing or not. I don't really know. But what I am saying is that there are real concerns, and that if Spotify is going to put forth this kind of agreement where the terms are suggesting that authors may be actually giving away or licensing some of their rights, even rights that they may not want to be licensing in exchange for getting their book onto Spotify. So, we need to keep an eye on what's going on and not let the big companies just get away with stuff because they're not clear and because we as authors are so hopeful. We as authors want so much to get our audiobooks out there because we want to reach our audiences. But it should not have to be at the mercy of someone else who is going to take all the profits in the process. Now, I do have some good news as well, and that is that after learning a little bit more about what this arrangement is with Findaway Voices, I reached out to Authors Republic because I wanted to make sure that our clients' rights were not in jeopardy as a result of Authors Republic utilizing the Findaway Voices system for distribution as a part of their network. And I was heartily reassured, thankfully, that their agreement differs from the one that they have out for the public, general public, who are going direct to Findaway Voices. So my point here is that as far as I can tell, if you go through Authors Republic, your rights are safer and protected than if you go direct to Findaway Voices /Spotify. And then, of course, the very best news of all is that there is an alternative, finally, as of last year, 2023, when we launched Amplify Audiobooks. Because Amplify Audiobooks is a place where you do get a transparent information, a transparent system, a direct sales system, and that has marketing tools all built in for you so that you as an author, as a rights holder for an audiobook, have a place that you can sell direct, set your own pricing, do promotionals if you want, promotion with your own promotional pricing as you wish, do coupon codes of whatever kind you want. They don't all have to be 100% off. You have flexibility and control that you get to know who buys your audiobook when they buy it on Amplify Audiobooks. You earn a percentage, 65% of the gross amount. That means the price that you set. So you have control on Amplify Audiobooks from your own dashboard. So you set the price and you know you're going to get 65% of whatever that audiobook sells for. The way that it differs, and I just want to reiterate this because for many, many authors, they are not aware of that this is how it works, just because of the language on the other websites. The standard in the industry is that you will get a percentage from each retailer of the net price. And that net price means that they take whatever they sell it for, and they have complete control. You have no control over what they sell it for. They take that price and then they reduce it by their profit and their expenses. And then they send to the digital distributor. In the case of using Authors Republic, it would go to them. Authors Republic, for their work, they're going to take a little slice as well. And then you get what's left over. So that's a very different formula. And just to give you some sense of, well, what's that mean in terms of numbers or kind of numbers, dollar numbers? Just as an example, let's say you sell your audiobook, you sell one copy for a credit, let's say $14.95, typical credit cost on many subscriptions, including Audible. So let's say you sell an audiobook for one credit on Audible, $14.95. And you sell at the same price to the consumer, you sell one on Amplify Audiobooks. What's the difference in how much you are going to receive from each of those sales? From Audible, it's going to be about $2.50. On Amplify Audiobooks, it will be $9.72. Now, I can't even give you an exact number on Audible because, again, their formula is hidden. It's proprietary somehow. And they have all these different ways of selling it. So it's not easy, but it will be about $2.50 if they're purchasing it with one credit. So we're talking about a difference per sale, per audiobook that you sell of about $7.10, something like that, for each one. You know, it doesn't take many copies before you quickly can see what a dramatic difference that is. So, to wrap this up, I want to kind of summarize some of the things that I'm talking about and my recommendations around distribution. First of all, some sketchy things are going on in the Spotify world, so be careful and watch out for that. Be sure to read agreements. And I would recommend that you not go direct through Findaway Voices if you're looking for a distribution platform. Number 2, if you are going through a digital distributor to hit the broader audience, that's fine. But I do recommend Authors Republic as a path to do that. And even with that, considering Spotify's terms of now giving away 15 hours of audiobook listening per month per paid subscriber on Spotify, that's a lot of potential revenue that may not get to the authors. So I have concerns around that, and I don't yet have enough detail to give you anything more than I've given you today. If I get more information, I will share it with you. And then the third, and I think the most important piece, is do the smart thing. Get your audiobook onto Amplify Audiobooks and focus your marketing activities on driving your traffic to your Amplify Audiobooks. Assuming you also have print and ebook editions, your audiobook edition is still going to be your highest profit margin for any format. Like, that's most likely. Obviously, depending on how you're pricing things, that might not necessarily be true, but most of the time that's going to be true. If you have an audiobook, you definitely want to get it onto Amplify Audiobooks. That's the smart place to be. It is, yes, it is still a small platform in terms of the number of authors and listeners, but it is growing and it is growing fast. So get on board now. You're going to get even more benefit the earlier you get on that platform. So again, Amplify Audiobooks, that is your audiobook distribution key to success. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions or if you have concerns, if there are things that you would like me to discuss on this podcast, please reach out to me. You can reach me at AC for Audiobook Connection at proaudiovoices.com. And if you're finding this podcast useful and helpful, I hope that you'll consider supporting this work through Patreon. We're at patreon.com/audiobook connection podcast. Thanks again for being with me. Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.